Thank you, Minister. And moving on to topical 4 in the names of Deputy Lisa Chambers, Deputy McBarry, Deputy Angus O'Snuddy to the Minister for Defence, Minister Keogh, working conditions for Air Corps personnel at Casement Aerodrome. Just to remind the deputies of 1 minute each to make the initial statement, and the Minister of State has 4 minutes to reply, and then you will each get a 1 minute supplementary.
It was 2 minutes each to make a submission, because that's actually cutting us short by a minute overall.
Look, we're on the last issue. We'll try and be as lenient as possible.
Minister, worrying reports have emerged of serious and ongoing health and safety concerns at Casement Aerodrome, Baldolin. There are reports of severely negligent practices concerning the handling of hazardous materials, and there are a number of issues that we must address in this matter, Minister. Firstly, we have 3 whistleblowers who wrote to An Taoiseach Enda Kenny and the then Minister for Defence Simon Coveney between November 2015 and January 2016 to warn them about the conditions at the Air Corps headquarters in Casement Aerodrome, Baldolin, relating to health and safety of soldiers and their handling of hazardous chemicals. The whistleblowers identified serious breaches in health and safety at the base, no provision of occupational health surveillance, lack of personal protective equipment and a lack of training on how to handle dangerous chemicals. One whistleblower is quoted as saying, "What has happened in the past and what is still happening regarding chemical health and safety in the Irish Army Air Corps is a grave scandal, which I believe has seriously injured the health of a number of personnel." Minister, if we go back to 2013, the Air Corps Safety Management System carried out a safety review at the base and made certain recommendations, and we've had nothing since on that particular review and what recommendations were made and what implementation was carried out. We also know that PD Fora, the representative association for enlisted men, wrote to the Defence Forces separately in November 2015, again outlining similar concerns at the base and stating that if the HSA were to inspect the base, the report would likely be damning. The HSE did inspect the base in 2016, made a number of recommendations that said required immediate action. Minister, it is my understanding that a former civil servant was appointed by the Department last September to review the whistleblowers' claims, but it is my understanding that that person has not contacted the whistleblowers themselves. And Minister, my question to you is, have you made contact with the whistleblowers? If not, why not? Has the Defence Forces implemented the HSA report, and has it implemented the Air Corps Safety Management System report? And Minister, if that has not been done, what has been done in this regard?
Thank you, Deputy McBarry.
Thank you, Ceithre. So the issue here is serious concerns regarding health and safety at the repair and maintenance workshops at the Air Corps headquarters at Casement Aerodrome in Baldonnel. Minister, one of the issues here is the breaking of the law. The law says that there must be occupational health surveillance in a circumstance such as this, where you're dealing with dangerous chemicals. That's the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Act 2005, which replaced an old piece of legislation going back to 1989. There is mandatory screening required under that law, and the Department, you are a minister responsible, and the Taoiseach is responsible here. The former American President Harry Truman had a sign on his desk saying the buck stops here. Well, the buck stops with yourself and the Taoiseach. Taoiseach is head of the country, head of the government and head of the department which you are a minister in. So what say you to the fact that the law has been flouted here?
Deputy Angus O'Snuddy, 1 minute as well.
Minister, the outline of the cases being taken are scary if they're upheld, and we're not going to go into the detail of those cases. But my concern here is to ensure that you, as Minister, and the Senior Minister, Enda Kenny, and also the military authorities, acted immediately when first made aware of the health and safety issue and the unwarranted exposure to chemicals of Air Corps personnel, and especially since the damning report of the HSA last October. Can you assure the House that the 13 recommendations of the Health and Safety Authority report have been completed, or when will they be completed? Can you assure us that there will be no more unwarranted exposure to chemicals, carcinogenic and mutagenic chemicals? Further, can you assure us that the Air Corps personnel now have the basic protection equipment that is required in handling such chemicals? Gloves, eye protection, respirators. Look, Minister, it's been going on for years, and obviously you can't undo the past. You can accept responsibility for you. The military authorities should accept responsibility for the years that they are aware of this. Can you let us know how long are the military authorities aware of an issue to do with the handling of chemicals in Baldonnel Airdrome?
Minister, you have 4 minutes to reply.
Thank you very much, Cathaoirleach. Let me assure the deputies, first of all, that as Minister with responsibility for defence, the health and safety and welfare of the men and women of the Defence Forces are of high priority for me and the Defence Forces. The State Claims Agency is currently managing 6 claims taken by former and current members of the Air Corps for personal injuries alleging exposure to chemical and toxic substances whilst working in the Air Corps in the period 1991 to 2006. As litigation is ongoing, you will appreciate that I am limited into what I can discuss here. It is the policy of the Defence Forces to proactively manage the health and safety risks to all of its members. It is done in line with national health and safety regulations. The Defence Forces risk management system is designed to an internationally recognised standard. The Defence Forces are committed to continuous risk mitigation and encourage inputs from personnel at all levels to ensure the work environment is as safe as possible. Areas where members of the Defence Forces are handling toxic materials in the context of their work are subject to stringent risk mitigation and continuous review by health and safety practitioners. I am informed that during 2016, the Health and Safety Authority, the HSA, conducted inspections of the Air Corps premises at Casement Aerodrome Baldonnel on 3 occasions, on February the 4th, April the 5th and September the 28th. During these visits, the Air Corps outlined the most recent developments regarding their health and safety practice and procedures, which are being developed in consultation with risk management experts. I understand that the HSA met with the Air Corps personnel, safety representatives and other employees, and also observed some workplace and work practices. On the 21st of October 2016, the HSA issued its report of inspection to the Air Corps. This report listed a number of advisory items for follow-up. This included the areas of risk assessment, health surveillance, monitoring of employees' actual exposure to particular hazardous substances, and the provision and use of personal protective equipment. The Air Corps were very appreciative of the advice and support that they received from the HSA. On the 20th of December, the Air Corps wrote to the HSA outlining its proposed improvement plan and indicating that the Air Corps is fully committed to implementing the improved safety measures that protect workers from potential exposures to chemicals and will ensure risks are as low and as reasonably practicable. The Air Corps has confirmed that it is implementing an improvement plan which has been conducted over 8 phases. The first phase commenced in September 2016, with planned phase completion dates to December 2017. I am advised that 7 out of the 8 phases are planned to be completed by May of 2017. The 8-phase implementation plan is focused on a number of areas. For example, actively based risk assessments, additional risk assessment of particular chemicals, policy review and health surveillance and biological monitoring will be considered. I will now outline the actions I have taken to date regarding protected disclosures relating to the Air Corps. These were received in November and December 2015 and January 2016. The deputies will appreciate that in doing so I must have regard to the fact that there is ongoing litigation in relation to certain disclosures. I must also have regard to the obligation in the Act to protect the identity of those making such disclosures. I want to assure the deputies that I take disclosures very seriously, and the actions I have taken will illustrate this. Legal advice was sought on how best to progress certain disclosures as elements related to matters which are the subject of ongoing litigation. The Department was also aware that the HSA had visited the Air Corps in relation to the use and management of chemicals. It was decided that an external reviewer should be appointed, With some difficulty, an individual was sourced and I appointed him in July of 2016 to carry out a review of the disclosures. However, in the event, he was ultimately not in a position to carry out the review. In September 2016, I appointed an alternative independent third party to review the allegations made in the outstanding disclosures, and those making the disclosures were informed of this fact. I believe that in this instance, it is important that I get a clear and independent view of the issues raised by those who have made these disclosures.
Sir, I'll stop you there, but let you back in. You're over 5 minutes.
With the leniency of the House, can I ask for permission just to carry, because I think it is very important.
Are you agreeable to let the Minister finish? Yeah, well, I said it has a little bit of latitude. Go.
In late November 2016, the interim recommendations and observations from the independent third party were submitted to me, and in December I asked that these were passed to the military authorities for immediate action and response. On the 7th of January 2017, the Department received a response from the military authorities outlining the actions underway, and this has been forwarded to the independent reviewer for consideration. I understand that the reviewer will consider this material and determine the next steps required in order to finalise his own review. I can assure the deputies opposite that I will ensure that all recommendations, whether arising from the work of the HSA or the ongoing protected disclosures review, will be acted upon to ensure the safety of the men and women of the Air Corps.
Deputy Chambers, 1 minute, and stick to it, please.
Minister, we've had some quite worrying reports of practices and practical jokes, actually was one of the terms used. For example, something known as tubbing was reported, where individuals that were new recruits were tossed into baths full of unknown chemicals as part of a joke and an initiation process. So there's a culture there and a lack of appreciation for the ongoing dangers associated with these chemicals. What's also worrying, Minister, is the fact that many people are reporting now that they presented with symptoms, with health issues, to medical doctors and were not given the assistance or the help that they needed, and the connection was not made, or maybe they didn't want to make it, with their working with those hazardous materials and those chemicals and the then health issues that they were facing, and some of them are now continuing to experience very severe health problems. And Minister, I think it does speak to a wider issue in terms of adequately resourcing our essential capabilities within our defence forces, and it is a wider issue of resources in the Air Corps. Minister, you haven't answered the question. Have you contacted the whistleblowers? Has your department contacted the whistleblowers? Or has this independent third party contacted the whistleblowers? You also haven't answered my question about the Safety Management System review that was conducted in 2013 and the recommendations made in that review. Were they implemented? And Minister, I want to make a final point. You touched upon the 6 cases pending before the courts. And I think it's very important, and I appreciate you cannot discuss these individual cases or the merits of those cases, but I wish to make this point very strongly to you, that the state should only be defending cases where it believes it does not have a case to answer. And if the state has committed a wrong, it should compensate the victims properly. And I'm asking you, Minister, that you should not put people through the trauma of a court process where they have a genuine claim. Every effort should be made to settle those cases out of court with the individuals involved. Because the only people served by defending the indefensible are the lawyers. Thank you, Minister.
Deputy McBarry.
Okay, Minister, you say that I take disclosures very seriously. Why is it the case that more than a year after the complaints were made by these whistleblowers, there has not been direct contact made with them regarding the issues that they raised with the ministers? It's said here that on the 20th of December the Air Corps wrote to the HSA outlining its proposed improvement plan and indicating the Air Corps is fully committed to implementing improved safety measures. We're more than a month after that now. Do we have a situation where we have protective gloves now? Do we have a situation now where we've got protection for the eyes of those workers now? Do we have a situation where respirators are fully available? And last but not least, I think that many observers of this case would say that there has been a certain high-handedness here, particularly as regards the health and safety, but also the delays that have taken place. And I'm asking you to comment on that charge of high-handedness, because it seems to me not untypical of the way that the rank-and-file men and women in the Defence Forces are being treated over a range of issues these days.
Thank you, Deputy Barry. Deputy O'Snully.
Minister, military discipline dictates different dynamics, and therefore the officers of the military authorities have a greater responsibility for the protection of the health and safety of those under their command. It's interesting, the whistleblowers came forward first in November and December 2015, but that suggests that these issues were raised internally before that, and that's why I was asking, when were the military authorities first made aware of the concerns of those who are handling the carcinogenic chemicals? Do you accept that a risk assessment should have immediately been carried out when this issue was first raised in November 2015, or before that? And in fact, that the work that's now starting should have started when the military authorities were aware of the Health and Safety Authority coming on the aerodrome in February, or maybe even April or September, and rather than waiting until October when the report came out, that most of this work could have already been half done or completed at this stage if they had acted. Further, I want to ask you, as Minister, are you aware of other branches of the Defence Forces? Are they now acting to look at the risk assessments in terms of not only chemicals but other dangerous equipment that has been handled by soldiers or by the Navy to ensure that there isn't other areas of the Defence Forces which would raise similar health and safety concerns?
Minister, strictly 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Kerry. First of all, the Deputy opposite should raise some issues around. I presume you mean bullying when you talked about people being put into bats and everything like that.
Sorry, not.
Well, let me state, for quite some years, the Defence Forces have worked assiduously to counteract the issue of any bullying that may happen in the Defence Forces. And when you say someone was put in, well, there must be some reason while you say that. I'm only reading that from what was in the media.
Sorry, please. But no interjections. It's a statement the Minister is making. Listen, I've been more than.
Let me say that my office has written to the people that have made these complaints, and I have informed them exactly of the process that I have begun, and that we have appointed an independent person. Deputy, you spoke about from the time these complaints were made in late 2015, the HSA actually came into the Air Corps on the 4th of February, the 5th of April and the 28th of September, and they have made a number of recommendations, and the Air Corps are acting upon those recommendations. And I have asked, through my Secretary-General in the Department, that whatever recommendations that have been made, that they are absolutely carried out. It will take some time for all of the recommendations to be concluded, but I have been informed by the Air Corps that all of the recommendations made by the HSA will be in place by December 2017, and I would say 95–99% of them will be concluded by May of this year. So, and I've asked the question to make sure that all members are issued with whatever gloves, respiratory, whatever equipment they are needed and required to carry out whatever work they have to make sure that this does not reoccur again. And the health and welfare of all the members of Óglaigh na hÉireann is a priority for myself. And
Minister, if I asked you to conclude within 2 minutes, and I've already allowed 6 minutes overtime on this,
okay.
And I'm setting a precedent. I allowed latitude because of the length of your statement. I'm now. Well, that's a matter for you to re-raise with the Deputy. Absolutely not, and I sympathise. I think you're taking liberty with the chair. I'm now the Dáil is now going to adjourn until 6:30. We'll have a suss until 6:30, when private members' business motion establishment of the Commission of Investigation into the Stardust tragedy will be taken. Gurmagh.